Am I the a-hole for leaving my own birthday dinner because my girlfriend turned it into a proposal for herself? I, 28th male, had my birthday dinner last weekend, and my girlfriend Sarah, 27th female, offered to plan it. I was excited because I usually keep things low-key, but she said she wanted to make it special. She booked a nice restaurant and invited close friends and family. Everything was going great, until it was time for dessert. The waiter brought out a cake, but instead of my name, it said, "Will you marry me, Sarah?" I was completely blindsided. Sarah got all teary-eyed, turned to me and said, "Well, this is the best surprise ever, right?" Everyone around us started clapping, and her friends were filming. I just sat there, stunned. She took my silence as hesitation and started going on about how she knew I wasn't big on grand gestures, but she couldn't wait anymore, so she took matters into her own hands. At that moment, I stood up and said, "This is my birthday. If you wanted a proposal, you should have talked to me about it first." Then I grabbed my stuff and walked out. Sarah was mortified, and her friends blew up my phone, calling me an a-hole for embarrassing her and ruining the night. She even said I humiliated her when she was just trying to do something romantic. I'm getting conflicting opinions from family. Some say I should have just gone along with it for the night, while others think she crossed a major boundary. So, am I the a-hole for leaving my own birthday dinner because my girlfriend hijacked it for a proposal? Now for the top comments. She didn't just turn it into a proposal. She turned it into a proposal where she proposed to herself on your behalf. That is not rational behavior in the least. If she wanted to propose, she could have proposed to you, from or as herself to you. But no, she wanted the public moment of her being proposed to, and decided your birthday was the perfect time for her to give this to herself. She was trying to do something romantic, but you weren't the intended recipient. She was. It was nice of her to show you what she values, because it definitely isn't you. You're a prop for her, and at least now you know that for sure. Absolutely, positively not the a-hole. That's beyond self-centered. She totally hijacked your moment for herself. Huge red flag. Not the a-hole at all. It's not even just the hijack, though that's bad too. She was tired of waiting, so she tried to publicly force OP to accept a proposal. I wonder if she's even had a discussion with him before this, and how long they've been together. Not the a-hole. Glad you didn't go along with it. The cake could have said, "Will you marry me, OP?" with her proposing to you, which would have been cringeworthy at best. Instead, she decided to make it all about her and put you on the spot. Please see her for who she really is, not worthy of your time and attention. Yes, if it was her proposing to him, it would be one thing. The way she did it was awkward. Plus, the fact that she did it in front of friends and family makes it even more awkward. This girl is nuts. Run away as fast as you can from the crazy. Yeah, I'm actually stunned. This is completely insane. Who thinks of something like that? Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay my wife while we are separated? For context, my wife went through some trauma and has not been using appropriate coping skills or seeking help. Instead, she is going through a complete midlife crisis of sorts, including leaving me rather unexpectedly. We are in counseling, but as of now, she cannot commit to anything other than a walk once a week. We barely speak. More context, I work 3 jobs. The original plan was to stack and save money to travel and possibly foster children eventually. She works 1 job. I pay all of her and my bills, except for her cell phone bill and 1/4 of the car payment. I was feeling quite resentful because she had been ignoring all of my messages for about a week. I saw that she was ordering food through a delivery service, so I changed my password. I saw she was also attempting to buy groceries on a similar app, so I took her off all of them. She then asked me for $150 a week for expenses. I've paid it for about a month, and I'm sick of it. We had talked about going to Greece as a couple. Now she can't even commit to more than 1 walk a week with me, and maybe 3 messages a day. No plan to get back together anytime soon. She says she's enjoying aspects of being single. So I'm pissed. I want to go to Greece by myself to reap the benefits of my hard labor. I stopped paying for her. My counselor told me that stopping payment is akin to abuse. but I think that working 3 jobs and sacrificing my mental and physical health so my estranged wife can do God knows what on my dime is also abuse. I'm standing my ground and not paying her weekly. Am I the a-hole? Since I pay all of her other bills, this seems quite reasonable. I'm not going to stop paying her bills, except maybe her gym membership. That's not essential. Am I the a-hole? Edit. The trauma was her grandfather dying. She was close to him. Then about a year later, her dad died. Neither death was unexpected. Grandpa was 91 and Dad had been battling lung cancer while continuing to smoke for about 4 years. It was traumatic because she was very close to both of them, and when her dad died, it was during COVID, so she wasn't able to say a real goodbye. Grandpa died 3 years ago. Dad died 2 years ago. Your therapist freaking sucks. Get a new one. But OP, it sounds like your marriage is over, and it might be worth lawyering up and separating legally if she has zero intention of working it out. Not the a-hole. I couldn't agree more. The therapist is full of BS. Not giving away your money is abuse? OP, get rid of that therapist immediately. Therapist is whack as hell. Get yourself properly lawyered. She has no intention of working things out with you, just wants to munch as much as possible. Not the a-hole. You are separated and do not have children. She's not your responsibility anymore. If she is enjoying being single, then she should get the full experience. Bills and all. I feel like she's stringing you along so she can be single and have her bills paid. That's what I'm afraid of. Let her know you're happy to continue counseling, but you can't keep paying 2 households. Or keep paying. Really your only choices. Yeah, I definitely don't want to engage in financial abuse, but she has a job. She's living with her mom. She will not become destitute without an additional $600 a month. Dump your therapist. Dump the wife. I'm sorry that sounds harsh, but if your post is true, those should be your next steps. She has a job, and if she wants to play single lady, single ladies pay their own way. Enjoy Greece. It's beautiful. Not the a-hole. Yeah, I honestly liked the therapist until she said that. I was pretty stunned. I've never considered myself to be abusive. An a-hole occasionally? Sure. Abusive? Never. I've done nothing but support her and provide for her and encourage all of her passions. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband it's too late to save our marriage? My husband and I met 5 years ago. He lost his first wife the previous year, and he was struggling with his 2 kids, who were 4 and 2 at the time. Currently, they're 9 and 7. It wasn't the parenting he was struggling with, but he admitted he was lonely and missed having someone there. We dated casually for a few months, and then more seriously. I was introduced to his kids after we had been serious for 7 months, and things were going well. When his first wife's family learned I was around the kids, there were some rumbles. My husband told me it would blow over and that it was difficult for them to hear the kids were bonding with another woman. It wasn't until after we got married 2 years ago that I started to feel like it wasn't going to blow over. The kids were acting out with me far more. We didn't have any real issues before. Sure, they were kids and didn't always listen, but it felt pretty evenly dispersed between my husband and me when it came to discipline. But after a while, it was clear that it was happening to me far more than to my husband. Things were only really starting to get more noticeable when I learned I was pregnant. My husband was thrilled, but the kids were not. Everyone told me it would take time for them to get used to another baby joining the family. They told me to give it time. My husband and I talked about my concerns, and he told me he'd be on the lookout for anything, but he didn't. He was dismissive the next time I brought the topic up. Then he started dropping the rope and expecting me to do more. The kids saw their mom's family once every 2 weeks. My husband used to drop them off, but then he expected me to do it. And I was met with a very icy reception and hostile remarks if I asked the kids to be careful or anything like that. I told my husband, and he shrugged it off. The kids started saying, "You're not our mom." They told me I couldn't tell them what to do. My husband heard them say it, and he said nothing. When I did, they got even angrier. One time while I was pregnant, I asked them to carry their dirty dishes so I could wash up, and they said no, that they didn't have to listen to me. I told them I was the adult in charge, that it was a simple request, and that I knew they were capable of doing it. They told me their real mom's family said they didn't have to listen to me and that I was a stupid bee who was trying to take them away. I tried to sit down and explain that I didn't want to take them away from anyone or upset anyone, that I was just another person who loved them, but the kids stormed off in a tantrum. My husband didn't care when I told him about it. When our son was born, it didn't get any better. I told my husband we needed marriage therapy and family counseling, and that he needed to hear me or our marriage wouldn't survive. But he didn't make the time for it. He told me things would get better once the kids settled. He was still leaving it all up to me, and anytime I called the grandparents to come and pick them up because I couldn't drop them off, it was like I was their enemy. The kids behaved even worse after visiting them. A friend who had lost a parent young and gained a step-parent afterward told me that intervening myself would just make them resent me more and would likely end any chance to improve the relationship. She said if my husband wasn't going to step up, then I needed to leave. She said there was a good chance my son would grow up in a very unhappy home if nothing changed and that I'd be miserable, more than I already was if I stayed. I tried to make it work. I tried to have another talk with my stepkids. I tried to insist on marriage counseling again. I got nowhere, and it was still getting worse. To add to it, the kids rejected their baby brother. There was no magical baby winning them over moment like others had mentioned. Not that I really believed in that, but I wanted to think it could happen. I also wanted to believe things could get better. But without my husband on my side, I know it won't. I reached the end of the line after Christmas. I packed up mine and my son's things and went to my parents' house. I filed for divorce the next day. My husband didn't seem to believe I'd follow through with it, but after a couple of weeks, he started saying all the right things and promising he'd do better. I told him he was too late. He said we built a family and that the kids couldn't lose another mom. Even his parents, who never paid much attention to me, reached out and told me I couldn't do this to the kids and that we needed to make it work. That it's never too late when kids are involved. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You tried for years, communicated your needs clearly, and your husband consistently failed to act. His sudden change of heart is convenient, but it doesn't erase years of neglect and the toxic environment he allowed to fester. You did what you had to do to protect yourself and your son. His family's pleas are out of line. They ignored you for years and now want you to sacrifice your happiness for their convenience? You deserve better. This, OP, get out now. He's desperate for you to come home to take care of his kids, not be a partner. The warning signs were there from the beginning. He just needed a nanny and a bed warmer. Why do people think other children will automatically accept a step-parent? Why do people think babies can bring about change in other children? OP should not have had a child with this man when all the red flags were there. Now her child is forever linked to this situation. Not the a-hole. You tried for years and he turned a deaf eye and ear to all the bad behavior. He never ran interference or established boundaries. When it was obvious his previous wife's family was bad-mouthing you and telling the kids to mistreat you. The kids aren't losing another mother because he and his first wife's family made sure that you weren't in that role. He only realized how bad it was when you left. He won't change, and I have no doubts he will move on quickly and find another woman to take care of things. I wish you and your son luck, OP, and a happier life that you both deserve. Thank you. I hope my son and I can have a happy little life now that we're out of the house. I feel guilty I let him be born into that mess to begin with, but I'll do everything I can to make him enjoy the life we can have. Unless your ex decides to give up custody, your son isn't out of that house. Once he gets a bit older, he'll be spending half his time there if that's what your ex wants. He hasn't even mentioned our son in his efforts to make me come back. I can't see him fighting for custody. I can see him letting the kids go to his in-laws and letting me keep our son. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband I won't cook for his mom anymore? My mother-in-law, 64 female, has never liked me, 30 female. She's polite when my husband, 35 male, is around, but when we're alone, she constantly makes passive-aggressive comments. If I wear makeup, I'm trying too hard. If I don't, I look tired. If I buy something nice for myself, I'm wasting money. But the worst part, she critiques everything I cook. Despite this, I've always cooked for her. She lives alone, so my husband invites her over 3 times a week to make sure she's eating well. I wouldn't mind if she were appreciative, but she never is. No matter what I make, she always finds something wrong. This soup could use more seasoning. After I followed her exact recipe, lol. The chicken is a little dry when I made her favorite dish. You put cheese in this? That's not how I do it. I've bitten my tongue for years to keep the peace, but last week was the final straw. I spent 2 hours making homemade lasagna, including fresh pasta and a special sauce. When she took a bite, she sighed and said, "I guess this is edible." I put my fork down and said, "I'm done. From now on, if you don't like my cooking, you can make your own meals." She looked shocked and then burst into tears. She told my husband I had humiliated her at the dinner table and that she didn't feel welcome in our home anymore. Instead of defending me, my husband immediately took her side. He said I was overreacting and that she's just old-fashioned. She doesn't mean anything by it. I told him that just because she's older doesn't give her a free pass to insult me every time she eats at our house. Now she refuses to eat at our home unless my husband cooks, which he rarely does. Low-key a win. She's also started making passive-aggressive remarks about not wanting to be a burden and how sad it is to eat alone in old age. My husband is furious with me for ruining family dinners and insists that I should just let it go because that's just how she is. But I refuse to spend hours cooking for someone who goes out of her way to crap on me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. You've been incredibly patient. Constructive criticism is one thing, but your mother-in-law's comments are consistently mean and designed to make you feel inadequate. It's your home too, and you shouldn't have to endure that kind of treatment. Your husband's refusal to acknowledge his mother's behavior and his expectation that you should just deal with it is the bigger problem here. It's perfectly reasonable to set boundaries. 100% OP has a husband problem. Mama's boys are never good husbands. That OP put up with this for years tells me she knew her husband would react that way. And his mom is a classic narcissist with her crying, then immediately guilt-tripping when she's criticized. And obviously OP's husband is still around her finger. OP, you're not the a-hole, but when your husband married you, you should have become his #1 priority, which means defending you. She's gonna be like this in every aspect of your life. Also, if you want to have kids, don't have kids with this man until he's worked out his unresolved mommy issues. Not the a-hole, but please realize you have a husband problem much more than you have a mother-in-law problem. Yes, mother-in-law is rude, but your husband is the one not only enabling her behavior to you, but angry at you for not enabling her too. I'd bet money that this isn't the only example of your husband coddling his mother at your expense. If your husband doesn't want his mother to eat alone, he can either take on more of the cooking or go run to his mommy's house and eat there. Maybe sometime he'll just decide to stay there, which honestly sounds like a win for you. Yes, let him and his mother fend for themselves at mealtime. Nah, you ain't the a-hole. You put up with her nonsense for years and she pushed you too far. Cooking for someone 3 times a week just for them to trash it? Nope. If your husband wants to keep the peace so bad, he can throw on an apron and handle dinner himself. Stand your ground. Or perhaps OP and a whole hubby can run a little test. Biatch-in-law can continue to come to dinner. OP cooks as usual, but they tell mother-in-law that hubby cooked. Do this for a month or so. Take note of her comments on the food. This will show hubby mother-in-law is just being a bee, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with the food. Then he can either get his bee in line, or he can take over cooking full-time. Either way, she's going to shut her pie hole or eat all by her little old lonesome. Better yet, perhaps it's time to look into assisted living facilities.